Let's do some coaching news real quick before we get into the game. Let's see here. I'm going to pop these up on the screen. You can tell me your thoughts. Mike Tomlin looking to return for another season. Doesn't look like Kenny Pickett is going to be the man. What do you think about this? And are you frozen? My man's frozen over there. So Steelers coach, he's checking back in. We'll add him back in as he pops up. He's having some internet problems. Steelers coach Mike Tomlin confirms after saying nothing. All right. And everybody thought he was gone, maybe going to get another job, but it looks like the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to get him back. Kenny Pickett might be looking to get on the bench, sitting on the bench. Mike Tomlin has not had a losing season with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And yeah, man, I'm going to tell you right now, Mike Tomlin is one of the good coaches, but there he is back on. You got it up here. Mike Tomlin returning back to the Steelers for, what is this 20th season? What do you think about this one?
I'm a big Mike Tomlin fan. Here's the reason why. This team, he's never had a losing record in the past 17, 18 years. It's cray-cray. The NFL, as you know, it's about parity on any given Sunday. But to have 17, 18 consecutive winning seasons, it's unheard of. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Tomlin and the Steelers get kind of a bad rap. I think they have just one Super Bowl win in the last 2 decades. But the fact is, every single year, one team wins, 31 teams lose. But I'm a big Mike Tomlin fan because I equate it to what I do from a sports betting standpoint. Anyone can be a one-hit wonder. Anyone can come in and do something, 1, 2, 3 times a lady. But to do it consistently, continuity, consistency, 2+ decades, I'm impressed, man. What are your thoughts, Coach?
I'm going to say, man, no losing seasons is enough for me. I mean, because winning a Super Bowl is abnormal. Not a lot of teams win Super Bowls. I mean, it's hard to even make the playoffs, but to consistently win and not having a losing season. And by the way, I'm going to tell you, the Pittsburgh Steelers are one of the luckiest teams in the NFL this entire year. They shouldn't even been 7-3. They shouldn't even be competing for the first place. And they were almost competing for first place, winning games by 2 and 3 points with a not so good quarterback situation. So I'm going to tell you, I don't know what it is. Is it his coaching or his leadership style? It's working over there. Now, Pittsburgh Steelers fans might want to see a couple more rings over there, but I think if they get rid of him just because he's not winning Super Bowl rings, they're going to find out when you replace a coach, it's difficult replacing a culture. So they might get what they asked for if they try to make a change there. That's what I think on that. What about the Cowboys? We call them the Cowgirls over there, staying with Mike McCarthy. All right. Everybody thought he was fired. Bill Belichick's name has been rumored. What do you think about the Cowboys sticking with Mike McCarthy?
First of all, I have a lot of respect for the Dallas Cowboys as a team. They have so much talent at the skilled positions. CeeDee Lamb led the league in receptions for the year, number 3 in touchdowns. They've got Pollard as a stud at running back. Dak Prescott, I'd like to see him be a little more consistent. Defensively, they were right there, had the defensive end, Parsons, as a potential MVP candidate, defensive player of the year candidate. So the Dallas Cowboys were absolutely stacked with the capital S, but it lends itself to one bad game.
Correct.
It could be a one and done. They picked a bad time to have a bad game, just like I picked a bad time to have a bad week in week 17 after being world class and kicking ass the first 16, 17 weeks of the season. But the fact is, with the Cowboys, they just really had to me, it was a bit of an anomaly. I give credit where credit's due. The Green Bay Packers, the youngest team in football, doing what they do, winners of 4 consecutive games. They got hot. Everything kind of snowballs, play to play, game in, game out. But the fact is, I am not, never have been, never will be a Mike McCarthy fan. I think he's overrated, overhyped, and I'm shocked that he's still there.
I was shocked that he was still there because it would have been a good time to make a change with Jerry Jones and his aging. You got the Dak Prescott. I don't know what more better you're going to get at quarterback. He did have a horrible game, threw some interceptions on not checking down on the safety a couple of times. You can't coach turnovers for the most part at this point of the season, and you had 3 bad ones in the first half. But I was shocked that he did come back because I know the fan base wanted to get rid of him. But who were you going to bring in? You had Bill Belichick. You had Mike Vrabel. That were the top contenders there. Who were you going to bring in?
Well, I like what you said. I want to back up for a second, Coach, because you said you cannot coach turnovers. Well, from a sports betting standpoint, that That's the crazy part of it. You know, as a professional, I hate randomness. You cannot predict turnovers. And if you could, you'd be a rich bitch. Here's why. I don't know oftentimes who's going to win a game or who's going to cover. I mean, I'll break it down mathematically, logically, based on current form, injuries, and line movement and value. But the fact of the matter is, if you had a crystal ball, if you could determine which team is going to turn the ball over more, you would be loaded. And you would back up the truck and you would unload, and then you'd back up another truck and unload again, because that's where, if you just scan the box score of every NFL football game on Monday morning and look at who had more INTs and fumbles, the other team flat out won. And they definitely cover the point spread. So as far as who I would bring in, I'm not a GM and I don't want to be. But I was thinking, man, Bill Belichick, he did so much with less in New England for decades, 6 championships, 24 years of coaching. Imagine, you see it all the time. It's one of those things where, when you touched on this briefly, when you talked about you were surprised that McCarthy is coming back, Jerry Jones, for the time being, giving him a vote of confidence. It kind of reminds me of the Philadelphia 76ers, Harden and the Sixers giving their coach Doc Rivers, who's been overrated, overhyped for 3 decades. He won 1 NBA Coach of the Year, but the fact is he had the first stacked team in the NBA with the Boston Celtics back in 07, 08. They won 1 championship. Everywhere he went, he had talent, could never win. And then they laid an egg with the Clippers. He laid an egg with the Sixers, and they endorsed him, and they continued to eat crap. They finally got rid of his lame ass. And now it's the same way with McCarthy. They're giving him, it's like, dude, this guy has underachieved with this talented roster. They stole the division from the 76ers. You're in the driver's seat. You're a 2 seed. So it means you only have to potentially play 1 road game, and that's against San Fran, right? Yeah. And you're going to play Detroit against the overrated Dan Campbell Lions, a team that you already beat, and yet you don't show up at home. That game surprised me.
So 27-0, I look at it as, you know, from a guy that coach, I look at offensive rebounds, turnovers, and how many times we sent the other team to the free throw line for basketball. Those are going to be the story. Everything else is in between, and that's how you lose game. But the NFL is going to be turnovers, fumbles, sacks, how many times your quarterback gets laid down. Those are going to be the difference in the game. And Dallas Cowboy managed to pack all of that in 1 half. All right, pack it in. So Mark McCarthy can only do so much. So, yeah, the coach did his job. They had it laid out right in front of them. The Eagles had a meltdown to finish in 2nd place in the division. You're at home, unless San Francisco takes an L. You're at home the entire playoffs, and you come out like that. So is that preparation? Is that the coach's fault? Did they just have 1 bad game? And unfortunately, it's 1 and done in the NFL, no 7-game series, right?
It was a problem. And it is on Coach McCarthy, because I know Jerry Jones said in his defense, he said, hey, it was a team effort. But the fact is, the coach, it starts and stops with the leader, the head coach. So that just tells me, it kind of reinforces my point that the entire team was unprepared. Another thing that drives me crazy with McCarthy, Greg, is the fact that his clock management is absolutely atrocious. I mean, he's been in the league forever, but he coaches clock management wise like a rookie. So again, I have nothing good to say about McCarthy. I'm shocked. You know, it's kind of like the Clippers. They have enough talent to overcome inadequate coaching. The Cowboys, I felt, even though I knew McCarthy was lame, I thought they had enough talent to overcome his inadequacies. But to give him a ringing endorsement and the fact that he's back, I don't understand.
All right, man. I'm gonna tell you, coaching is difficult. So some coaches have certain strengths. I don't think clock management for some coaches, they focus on the X and O's, but of course, making decisions in good time, in real time, is hard to do. All right, AP, it says right here, Antonio Pierce is now finalizing a deal with the Raiders. This is the last coaching news that we're going to talk about. Looks like he's going to be the head coach. You know, people are going to say he deserved to be the head coach. I don't know if you can deserve to be a head coach, but Kansas City had those turnovers and they cost them the game. So you win at Kansas City. You beat the Chargers, beat the pants off the Chargers. You beat the Jets and the Giants, and that was about it. I think they beat the Broncos at the end of the year. But everybody else, everything in between, I think he was 4-5 or 5-4. Do you think he deserves to be the head coach of the Raiders?
Well, this is a great question, man. I'm telling you. Are you kidding me? This guy has less than zero coaching experience. So I like that he got a bump with the players. The fact that they responded, everyone was down on Josh McDaniels. But the fact is, Josh McDaniels, outside of being a head coach, has won Super Bowls. Okay, so this guy is proven. The Raiders, as much as I like the Raiders, and I don't want to diss on your Raiders, just telling you,
Raiders.
They have not won anything in forever. Derek Carr, they finally got rid of him. I mean, he won one playoff game in 9 years, and he goes to New Orleans.
Whoa. You can't come on the show and start talking. You can't come on the show and start talking negatively about the Raiders. Hold on for a second. You can talk about the Cowgirls and all these did. What is this? All right, go ahead. My bad.
Well, as a professional sports bettor, I'm going to say a lot of things that are not popular, but it's all about seeing the cashier and cashing tickets. So I might ruffle some feathers. People often ask me, hey, who's your favorite team? It's whoever's on my ticket. I'm not loyal. I'm not faithful. I've got commitment issues. A lot of times I won't even tie up my money for 3 hours. I'll tie it up for a quarter bet or a half bet because, again, I can't commit for 3 hours. But back to Pierce, I respect the fact that the players responded. And to your point, Coach, one of the great things of a good, effective coach is if the players buy in, if the players are going to bust tail for you. So in defense of Pierce, even though he has the same coaching experience that I have, and I've never coached football, I'll give him his credit. But come on, man, you've got some proven guys that are available out there. Can the Raiders at least interview some of these guys? I'm disappointed, and you should be upset that Pierce is the man. You're gonna go and pay top dollar to see these games with the guy who has zero coaching experience? Are you kidding me?
Well, listen, then the Raiders is the most expensive ticket in the NFL. They did a research and they said the Raiders is the most expensive ticket in the NFL. So that's number one. Number two, I'm looking at it like, as a fan, I'm looking at the Raiders and saying, well, they made a mistake the previous time hiring Josh McDaniels in place of Rich Bisaccia, who was the players coach who led them to the playoffs, even with, John Gruden being fired. So they made a mistake there. And I just think this is covering for that mistake. In my opinion, I think you get the best coach available. You throw the money and you piss off the players. You have to, because look, Antonio Pierce, while he didn't right the ship, he is a players coach. And if you surround them by good offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators, we're good. If you don't, then you're going to have to learn through his inexperience. And there was a couple of times in last year's games that his inexperience showed. And it is what it is. So I look at it and say, well, now we got to live and die with this decision over the next 2 or 3 years. And if it works out, it will. And I think the Raiders coaches historically, the Raiders have done better with players coaches, not these little, what I call these whiz kids. Right, the whiz kids with the visor and the little play sheet. The Raiders have really never done good with whiz kids coaches. They've always done good with Art Shell, Tom Flores, players coaches, locker room guys. I guess John Gruden was a whiz kid for a little bit, but I think the inmates were running the asylum with John Gruden more than he was running the show. But that's just kind of what the Raiders are. I'm just gonna say, hey, we'll see what Antonio Pierce does. But if he doesn't do well, remember the fans backed this move. They primarily backed this move. And the only other coach they wanted was the Michigan coach, Harbaugh. They didn't want anybody else. So if Mike Vrabel would have got the job, they would have rebelled. If Bill Belichick would have got the job, people would have been pissed because you just fired Josh McDaniels. So we'll go with it now. We'll see what it is. I'm going to have to spend some money this year going to games. If we get our ass kicked, John Madden was a player's coach, another player's coach. So